In the red corner,
Mischief Makers!
The good old Nintendo 64. I grew up with this thing, and it has remained my favorite console. It was a very experimental time for the entire industry, which is one reason I love it so much. This experimentation resulted in some of my favorite games, but unfortunately, it came at a cost. The third dimension was the new thing, and for the most part, 2D games became relegated to handhelds. I've been conflicted by this. I like 2D games, but I also love the N64, one of the consoles responsible for nearly killing 2D games on consoles. It really is a shame that this had happened, as 2D games hadn't shown their full potential being restricted to the hardware of the time. Now there were some exceptions, like Castlevania Symphony of the Night, and the game I'll be reviewing, Mischief Makers. Mischief Makers is a weird game. It was made by Treasure. Most people seem to remember them for Gunstar Heroes, but Mischief Makers is the only game of theirs I've played. Treasure had previously only developed for Sega consoles, but Mischief Makers is exclusive to the N64. That might have something to do with this game becoming relatively obscure, aside from the whole 2D thing. Although it does have a decently sized cult following. So we have a 2D platformer released during the time when 3D was the new thing, made by a developer who previously only made games for Sega. I wonder how they advertise this game. Let's look at a commercial.
Hey man, how's it going?
Not bad, not bad. No more cowboy ghosts, right? You gotta understand something. I ride the Clancers. I have the answers. I play Greek dodgeball with a Virgin Diddy. Just me, Marina Light Years, and a lot of shaking. Oh sure, those bees need their honey, but I need gold gems. The professor cannot wait forever. The evil empire will not allow it. So, where are you going?
Here's mine. New Mischief Makers, only on Nintendo 64.
What the hell was that? I don't even know what to say about that. Let's just start the review already. I hope you don't mind spoilers for a 20-year-old game that doesn't even care about story, because I'm going all in. Where do I even begin with this game's plot? It's weird, pretty nonsensical at times, and super anime. It does not take itself seriously in the slightest. So there is Professor Theo. He is a scientist who specializes in robotics, and a bit of a perverted creeper. But one of his creations is our main character here. This is Marina Lightyears. Her full title is apparently the Ultra Intergalactic Cybot G, and I have no idea what that means, but everyone else seems to know what she is. She's just supposed to be Theo's assistant, so what's with the long title? Anyways, the two of them visit the planet Clancer. Marina goes down to the surface to scout ahead while Theo stays on board their ship. Theo gets bored, but it's not too long before a bunch of Clancers barge in and run amok. They also kidnap Theo in the process. As it turns out, Theo was taken by the evil Empire. They were only told to bring him to the Emperor himself. What I do know is that you'll have a horrible time with us, so get ready to cry and scream. Help me, Marina! Get used to that voice clip, you'll be hearing it a lot. Marina appears, having lost their trail, when she's approached by a Clancer. This guy tells you to go to his village and talk to Geold. He tells you that the Clancers are a kind and friendly race, and because of that, the Empire has been able to persuade many of them to becoming evil. How does that even make any sense? Having the traits of being kind and friendly makes it easy to be persuaded to become evil? Not even the manual gives more information other than apparently they meant no harm in kidnapping the prof. What I do know is that you'll have a horrible time with us, so get ready to cry and scream. Yeah, Anyways, Geold gives exposition here. The only important part is that the Empire is trying to take over the universe.
of course!
He also says he doesn't know why they kidnapped the prof. You are useless to me! Also in this village is Terran and his sister Celeste. They're not important right now, but they will be later. Please be nice to her. No! Marina leaves the village through a warp gate and goes around the place doing various things like helping this woman find her kids and husband, and they don't seem to be getting along very well. Eventually, she reaches a desert where she runs into Terran, who explains that his sister Celeste went missing. Marina, naturally being kind and caring, offers to help find her. And then Terran says, "Yeah, shake me hard, grab and shake me to awaken my fighting spirits."
I have several questions.
Apparently he has Blockman blood. Not sure what that means, but whoa! Okay, that's what it means. This is the only time in the game he does this. You find Celeste and help her against this worm thing, but back at the village a bunch of Spur Clancers attack. Damn, and he apparently dies from that punch too. But luckily, Marina appears and saves the day. Then she continues her search for Theo inside this volcano and eventually runs into Maigen, who has the prof. Now, the manual says this guy is an Empire Army commander, but he's questioning Theo for information about the Empire, like who the Emperor is. If you're a commander in the Empire, how do you not know who the Emperor is? But then Marina interferes. Maigen and son, you've gone too far this time. It's time to teach both of you a lesson. Wait, how do you know this guy? And there's no one else here. Apparently he has a son and is bringing him out to fight. Well, that shouldn't be a problem. Well, there goes the prof. But Marina beats the two of them and saves Theo. Wait, Marina, what are you doing? She just throws him across the world. I know he was being a creep there, but come on, that's a bit of an overreaction there. Also, it says the Empire's plan was destroyed, so then Maigen was part of the Empire, right? But then we get a scene with the Emperor himself, who is apparently a stone slab with weird markings on it. Hey, at least it's original. The Emperor summons 3 Justice Warriors to him.
Through fire, justice is served! Here's Lunar!
To punish evil forces, I have been charged. It's Taurus time!
A hero with shining armor is called Mirko.
Lunar, Terrace, and Mirko are the Beastektor, whatever that means. The Emperor shows them a clip of Marina beating up some Clancers. Hey, that's bullshit, you can't do any of those moves. And besides, Marina would never do something so vile. The Emperor tells them that Marina and Theo are evil and much worse than the Maigens. But are they with the Empire or not? He orders the Beastektor to capture Theo and Marina alive, but Lunar is so horrified by what he sees that he goes berserk and vows to destroy Marina, despite the Emperor's insistence that he wants them alive. Meanwhile, some Clancers are preparing for an athletic competition when Lunar comes in and tells them to kidnap the prof with the intention of drawing Marina out so he can destroy her. The Clancers interpret this as Theo being the prize for the competition they were talking about. Brilliant. So they go and kidnap and replace him with a dummy without Marina noticing. But then again, she did throw him across the world, so it probably wasn't all that hard. She gets the letter and rushes out to save Theo again while Lunar awaits their confrontation. Marina explores the mountains for Theo and is eventually confronted by Lunar. They have a fight with Marina coming out on top. He reveals that the prof was taken by other Clancers and Marina goes off. She then finds out he's being offered up as a prize in the athletic fest and joins the white team to win him. But it seems most of them don't even care about the prize, except this guy here, and I thought Theo is the creeper. So Marina wins, but Lunar had kidnapped the prof, so instead you play
Greek dodgeball with a virgin titty!
After beating the cat, she offers to help fight against Lunar. So the two of them join together to fight Lunar, who is now riding his a transforming motorcycle. They beat Lunar, save Theo, and once again throw him across the planet. And yes, this is a repeating pattern. But we get a scene with the Emperor again. Terrace, the second member of the Beastektor, comes in with a status report, but then notices Lunar is in some kind of healing pod. The Emperor tells him that Marina did this and now gives the assignment of kidnapping Theo to him instead. Terrace then also vows to destroy Marina, again despite the Emperor telling him to kidnap Theo. But someone actually is listening to the Emperor. Kalina. We saw her briefly in the second level disguised as Marina, but she goes to capture the prof. Back to Theo's ship. This time, they brought a bunch of missiles to defend themselves from any more kidnapping. But then the phone rings and Marina goes to answer it. You know what that means. Kalina, in her Marina disguise, comes in and tricks Theo into playing hide and seek. This guy's supposed to be a genius. So Marina comes back and sees Theo chasing Kalina outside.
Help me, Marina!
Wait a second, Theo, why are you calling for help when you're the one chasing her? So next Marina goes looking in the caves. While she's there, she runs into the Clancer that wanted you to find her 3 kits, and she wants help finding them again. But this time, those two had gotten a bit busy because they now have 7 kids. Apparently, Kalina kidnapped them and turned them into mini-bosses, but you save them and then get some exposition. Apparently there used to be a king, King Aster, but his kingdom was destroyed by the Empire and he fled to the caves. He had a daughter named Ondine who went missing. These two are looking for them. Not sure how much they'd help against the Empire, but alright. Apparently Kalina has been looking for Terran and Celeste, and Marina just knows, so she goes to help them. But this guy appears and just fires this energy ball at Marina, which nearly kills her. Terran then goes to find a Mr. Health machine to save her. But to do that, he needs to go through Kalina. Did they just make an anime transformation sequence? Also, she's apparently a clone of Marina? Anyways, Terran beats her and is able to revive Marina. Marina then fights Terrace. Apparently, killing isn't her style? Yeah, totally. She would never kill anyone. After that, she finds the king and does a couple errands for him before fighting Terrace a second time. This time he's riding his transforming tank. She beats him and saves the prof yet again, and throws him across the world, yet again. They get back to the ship, Marina gets distracted by a Clancer, and the obvious happens. Theo just accepts it this time, since clearly he's destined to be captured by these guys. Even Marina looks like she's ready to give up. But then we see the Emperor again, talking to Mirko, the final member of the Beast Actor, about how they're close to conquering the universe, but he still wants to kidnap Theo. Predictably, Mirko doesn't listen and is only interested in fighting Marina and avenging his fallen brethren. The Emperor is presumably tired of this shit, but some of his troops do listen, so the Professor is not far from being delivered. He apparently is going to make today Theo's last. But Marina has had enough of this and takes the fight to the Empire's HQ. She gets to Mirko, but the ladies call him Dr. Smooth Love. Marina beats him. I hope you weren't expecting anything different. But he does tell you that the Emperor wants to invade Earth. Wait, Earth exists in this universe? But he also hints that he has some other objective. But it isn't long before their second fight, and Mirko brought his And again, Marina defeats him, but this time Theo isn't rescued, as he had successfully been delivered to the Emperor. And it is revealed that the Emperor is that bald guy that nearly killed Marina earlier, but also that this guy is actually Theo's brother, Leo.
What a twist!
Apparently Leo has a history of doing stuff like this. Not that it's elaborated on. But he wants power, and a lot of it, so he can control the universe. Leo leaves so he can scold the Beast Actor for their inability to follow orders. Lunar and Terrace are finally healed, but for some reason Mirko didn't need healing. But they've apparently figured out that the evil empire they've been working for might actually be evil.
Oh shit.
So they turn against the Emperor, but Marina shows up and defeats him herself. With Leo's dying breath, he reveals what his ultimate goal is. I loved Theo so much. I thought that our goals were the same. I was wrong. My dream was to be destroyed by my brother. Why did you have to defeat me, Marina? Now wait a second. Hold the phone. Your goal is to be destroyed by Theo? What? You formed this empire and started taking over the universe just so you could kidnap Theo and have him destroy you. Why do you want Theo to destroy you? And why go to such lengths to reach that goal? I thought you wanted power and lots of it so you could rule this universe. It's kind of hard to do that if you're dead. See what I mean about this plot being nonsensical? I wonder if it makes more sense in Japanese. I would like to see a direct translation to see the difference between them. Anyways, Leo gets upset that he lost and fires his strongest attack against Marina. But this time, Theo gets in the way. With his last breath, he tells Marina that he thinks of her as a daughter. And then he dies.
Goodbye.
Ah, just kidding. He was fine all along. That was almost a touching scene. And Marina responds to it predictably by throwing him into space.
Help me, Marina!
And that's it. The Empire's defeated, so it's over. But wait, the Beast Actor still won one more fight for some reason. Their dialogue before the fight is weird. They bicker amongst themselves and keep talking about fan clubs. But when they're done, they combine their machines together Power Ranger style to form the Beastictor. They fight for one final time, and with their defeat, Marina's quest is over. But not before throwing Theo across the world for old time's sake. They go back and meet up with Terran and Celeste and King Aster, remember him? And it is revealed that Celeste is Ondine, the king's daughter. So they have a coronation ceremony. But something seems a bit wrong with Terran. He leaves, but Celeste follows him to see what's up. It turns out Terran isn't her true brother, but a bodyguard hired by Aster, and he's apparently from a different world. So he runs off and bumps into Marina. One of two things can happen here. The circumstances for that I'll talk about later. But he'll either punch her and run past, or she grabs him, tells him to get over himself, and throws him back to Celeste. If he runs past, this other guy basically does the same thing. Both of these variations are good, but it's better when Marina is the one that knocks some sense into him, rather than this random Clancer, even if he does say more. He lands next to Celeste, and she orders him to stay by her side, as Blockman, as her brother, as Terran. And with that, Marina and Theo leave Clancer in their ship, ending the game. It's a simple yet weird as hell story. It's incredibly dumb, and I love it because of it. A lot of it doesn't make any sense, but the characters are entertaining, and it knows exactly what it is, and doesn't take itself seriously at all. Some may say that Theo constantly getting kidnapped is repetitive, but the game knows how dumb it is, and just has fun with it. I love these scenes where Theo gets captured in silly and absurd ways. And it's just hilarious watching the scenes with the Emperor trying to get the Beastictor to listen to him, but they never do. This game is so dumb, I love it. The Beastictor themselves are my favorite characters, especially Lunar. While most of the dialogue is text, there are voice clips used, and Lunar has the best ones.
Here's Lunar! Through fire, justice is served! You're mine! Eat lead! No more Mr. Nice Guy!
But all around, the voice clips are great. I don't see many other people really talk about the story in this game. At most, they'll mention the basic plot of rescue Theo. And I get it, the plot is simple and not important to this game. But come on, the writing is pretty hilarious, intentionally or not. I love this game, and I want to talk about as much of it as I can. But let's move on to the presentation. When it comes to 2D games, my favorite style is pixel art. I do still like a good hand-drawn style, but nothing beats high-quality pixel art for me. Especially 2D games that use 3D models, but that's for another video. It's because I like pixel art so much that I find it such a missed opportunity that 2D games on consoles mostly died around this time because of just how good highly detailed pixel art looks. I don't care much for 8-bit pixel art. It's a bit too simplistic for me, and while 16-bit is much better, even that is still not enough. But 32-bit and onwards, just right. This generation had so much potential when it came to making really good-looking 2D games. Case in point, Castlevania Symphony of the Night is still one of the most beautiful 2D games I've ever played. And then there's Mischief Makers. While not quite at Castlevania's level, it's still a great example of high-quality pixel art. I love the way the game looks. The pixel art is detailed, the animations are smooth. I think this is one of the few N64 games to actually run at 60 frames. And I love the character designs, especially those of the bosses. I mean, look at how detailed these bosses are. You couldn't get this kind of detail and animation on a Super Nintendo. One thing this game does is use some 3D elements like these platforms. I may not like 2D games where everything is made up of 3D models, but I do like cases like this where most of the game is in 2D, but they put in 3D stuff in the environment and background. Now, there's one aspect of this game's art style you probably noticed, and it's going to be staring you in the face the entire game. For some reason, a lot of things in this game have the same face as the Clancers themselves. Balls, spiked balls, pots, these jelly bean things, every living creature native to this planet, and even the very building blocks used in every bit of architecture. Even trees are made up of blocks with these faces. It's a bizarre art style choice, but one that's oddly charming and very unique. You can't tell me there's another game that looks like this. On one hand, I like this because of its unique charm, but on the other hand, at times it can feel a bit lazy that most of the game is made up of these blocks. It comes off as pretty artificial, like they made these blocks and just copy and pasted them around. But then again, to an extent you could say the same thing about the 2D Mario games. I mean, really, even the levels in the new series are just made up of blocks, and you can easily make the argument that they are even more artificial. The most complex the landscapes ever really get is having a slope. Mario's no Donkey Kong in that regard. Hell, even the original DKC games didn't feel as artificial as the new Mario series, even when the level is supposed to be artificial. I think it's more easily noticeable in Mischief Makers because of the bright colors used on these blocks, as well as the creepy face staring into your soul. Seeing them used to form what are supposed to be buildings makes it come off as very unnatural. But then again, perhaps that's the intention. We are on an alien world. Who's to say an alien species wouldn't give blocks with their own face like this? And also, it's pretty consistent with this. I mean, it only applies to the Clancers and everything from this planet. The Emperor's weird slab thing doesn't have that face because it's not from Clancer. Same with the Beastic during their transforming vehicles. None of them have those faces. But the vehicles that the Clancers themselves use do have those very same faces. It's interesting. I can see why someone would be put off by this or think it's lazy or artificial, but at the same time, it's unique and consistent with itself. I think there's more to like than dislike here. At the very least, it stands out and gives the game its own sense of identity. It's visually distinct. That's what I'm trying to say. You're not going to confuse this game with any other. And that's one thing I really value in the visuals of any game, if it's visually distinct. And now for the game's soundtrack. Much like the rest of the game, it's weird and unique, but also pretty damn good. Most of it is pretty upbeat and energetic. But occasionally things slow down a bit. Or even get a bit creepy. One of my personal favorites is Volcanic, the track that fittingly plays in the volcano levels. But easily the best tracks are the boss themes. All of them. They're all great. The mini-boss theme, the major boss theme, the track that plays when you fight the Emperor, and of course the final boss theme. I like the soundtrack. I'm not sure what genre it fits into, but it sounds good and that's all that matters. And again, it's unique. You hear it and instantly recognize what it's from. Also, there's a sound test, and every game needs a sound test. Seriously, why aren't these a thing anymore? But now, let's move on to the gameplay. So as previously mentioned, this is a 2D game during the time when 3D was the next big thing. A bold and risky move that I think paid off. This is one of my favorite 2D platformers ever made. So Marina can move and jump like you'd expect, but she comes with a few other unique moves involving the C buttons. Hitting left or right C will perform a boost. You can also boost in the air, and in the air using up and down C you can boost up or down. Boosting up can allow you to hover in place. If you push down C on the ground, you will roll, but there isn't much of a use for it. All of this can be done by double tapping the D-pad as well, but it's much more comfortable to use the C buttons, and I'm confused as to why the game tells you to use the D-pad over the C buttons. Now, using the D-pad to dash is actually faster than using the C buttons, and I really don't understand why. Have you tried mashing the D button? It's not very comfortable, although it might be fine if you're left-handed. Also, while on the ground, if you duck and press the jump button, she'll do a slide, and you can jump out of it, which allows you to get a lot of speed. This dashing mechanic makes you pretty mobile and is fun to use, but I wish it was only used with the C buttons, or at the very least not have the D-pad be faster. That becomes a problem later. But aside from dashing, Marina does have one more ability that is the central mechanic of the game, and that is grabbing. Marina can grab almost anything. While she is holding something, she can throw it, which is the main way of attacking enemies. Throwing stuff at them, or just throwing the enemy itself. Grabbing can also be used defensively. Most projectiles can be blocked with a well-timed grab, and you can get rewarded for doing that. You can even grab giant lasers, which can be thrown back. While holding something, you can press down C to shake it. This is the thing most people remember this game for, mostly because every time you do it, Marina says,
Shake, shake.
Even though she says it every time, it never becomes annoying. Shaking things can result in different things, and it depends on what you're shaking. There are many different effects granted by shaking, from shaking clancers for gems to shaking missiles to make them bigger. There are these floating balls everywhere, and aside from shaking them to get gems or other items, or to make something else appear like another ball or a warp point, you can try throwing, which will launch Marina in the opposite direction. And you can bet there are plenty of platforming challenges involving that. There are various weapons like bombs or shurikens that you can use against other enemies, but also machine guns and missile launchers that will change properties if you shake them. The machine guns will turn into a spread shot, and the missiles will become homing missiles, and at that point nothing can touch you. Most enemies you will face are clancers. They'll mostly just try to punch or throw you, but they can also throw bombs and shurikens at you, which you can grab out of the air and use against them. You shouldn't have any trouble with clancers. About the only ones that can be a bit annoying are the jetpack clancers, but even they don't stand much of a chance. In fact, none of the standard enemies will cause much trouble. Not these robot clancers, or these cat tanks, or these walkers. The walkers can't even attack you without a missile launcher, which can easily be used against them, and if they don't have one, they're completely defenseless. But anyways, there is one more item that gets a few uses, the clan pot. You can store items inside it, and even clancers in some instances. If you have specific items in it, you can combine them to create something else if you shake it. Like a few bombs will make an even bigger bomb, or combining flowers will make shurikens for some reason. It does get used a few times and in a few different ways. This core mechanic of grabbing, shaking, and throwing things is what makes this game what it is. It's unique and really fun. Simply throwing an enemy at another enemy is fun, especially with a sound effect as satisfying as this.
Yeah!
Also, since you can pick up almost anything, including friendly NPCs, you can become such an asshole to everyone. I especially love in the first level how far you can throw Geold and have him bounce off the platform above and catch him to do it again. You can also get most of the clancers in this level to constantly run into this fire. I'm the good guy. And then there's this poor soul. You know, maybe the Emperor had a point when he told the Beast Actor that Marina was evil. So the game is divided between 5 areas. Each area has from 8 to 12 levels in it, including boss fights. The goal of normal levels is always the same, find the exit point, which most of the time is a warp star. But what needs to be done to get to the exit varies from level to level. Some are simple, while others can be a bit complex. The first few levels are mostly just tutorials. The first one mostly teaches you about talking to NPCs and that bombs can blow up red blocks. But also it tells you about different kinds of gems there are. Blue and green gems are health, green giving you more than blue. Marina can get up to 3 health bars, which is more than enough for almost anything this game will throw at you, although the health you have carries over to other levels. But then there are red gems, and what they do is if you die you can spend 10 to come back with 1 health bar, 30 for 2, and 100 for all 3. You can get a lot of red gems, so coming back with full health isn't an issue. And then there's the gold gems, but I'll get into what they do later. I love the way the second level does its tutorials. Right away you meet Kalina disguised as Marina, and she tells you she's gonna go around doing horrible things to people so they think Marina is the one that did that. So talking to the NPCs in this level, and they'll be like, "Not you again! Have you come to shake me using down to see what items fall out?" Or, "Oh Marina, please stop digging. Tapping B while holding down will uncover my buried item, so stop it. I've hidden my loot." Oops, never mind. Forget I said anything. It's like the game is encouraging you to be a huge asshole, and I'm okay with this. Later in this level, you reach a hospital, and this guy's like, "Recently, a monster named Marina has been causing trouble." "Oh yeah? I'll show you trouble."
Yeah!
Oh shit, he died! He's actually dead, and I killed him. So for friendly NPCs, you can throw them around as much as you want, they'll be fine. It's only enemies that will die when you throw them. But for some reason, just this one guy can be killed, and it's in a hospital. I almost feel bad about it. After this level, you start getting into the game proper. It still is somewhat in tutorial mode. It teaches you about how clan balls work, gives you a feel on what you can do with them in future levels. Also more opportunities for you to be an asshole. Stop having fun!
Shake, shake.
Also, there's Miss Hint who will give you hints if you need them, but I never use her, so if she does give good advice, I wouldn't know. But that's pretty much it for tutorials. From this point on, you may notice that the game has quite an impressive amount of variety in its levels. While there is some overlap in mechanics and objectives, most levels in this game have something unique about them. It's similar to Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze in that aspect, or I guess a better comparison would be Donkey Kong Country 3. In one level, you could be surfing on a missile, in another you could be running from a boulder, or you could just be fighting a seemingly endless horde of enemies, or riding on top of Blockman. Even when you are doing something similar to a previous level, it still does something different. Like in one level you need to find and bring back 3 kids, but later you need to do the same thing but with 7 of them. And instead of bringing them back, you need to fight a mini-boss every time you find one. There's some levels that are just going from left to right, but again, they usually have something unique about them, like riding a platform that sinks while standing on it, and of course a bunch of enemies will jump on, or maybe you're swinging on clancers to get across gaps. In this level, there are jetpack lancers who will constantly drop bombs on you, and hold on there, what? I've been playing this game for years, and I never knew you could grab these guys and stop them from dropping bombs. And then there's this level where you need to bring all the kids back to this house using a clan pot for the exit to appear. But there's nothing stopping you from putting them back in the pot and throwing them out into the blizzard where they'll probably die a slow and painful death. You know, the more I talk about this game, the more I agree with the Beast Actor. When you first find King Aster, he wants you to go around capturing ghosts in this special clan pot. It's a neat level with a creepy atmosphere, and the ghosts can be well hidden. I wonder if I made any of these ghosts. And after you get them all, King Aster is grateful that he doesn't have to worry about any more ghosts.
Shake, shake. Yeah!
You also compete in the athletic festival, and you have to do things like the 100-meter dash, jump as far as you can, a hurdle, and even math. I could probably go on for a while about all the different kinds of things you do in this game, like solving a teleporter puzzle before fighting a pirate, climbing up a shaking tower, running from an erupting volcano, and riding on a giant bee. But you get the point, this game has a lot of variety. Now one could say this game is just gimmicky. I've heard that as a complaint against Donkey Kong Country 3, as it also has a unique thing about each of its levels. To refute that, for one thing, a gimmick isn't necessarily bad. And this game does them well, if you would even consider them to be gimmicks. While sure, you could make the argument that each level has a gimmick, but each gimmick still uses the base mechanics. The game takes full advantage of Marina's moveset. Each stage, no matter what the gimmick, will utilize her mobility or her grabbing ability, or both. No genre shifts here. There is one exception though. When Leo nearly kills Marina, you actually get control of Terran for a level as well as a mini-boss. He does control differently from Marina. His walking speed is a lot slower, but by double tapping the D-pad he will start running. He can't boost, but he does have a quadruple jump, and if he does it into the ceiling, he will do this. He can't grab things, but he can punch, as well as do a slide kick and a rising punch. If you hold down on the D-pad, he will guard and be immune to damage. He also only has 1 health bar. While not quite as enjoyable as Marina, Terran is still a fun change of pace that doesn't get in the way and isn't overutilized. I kinda wish you could play as him for more than just 1 level and a boss, but his moveset isn't as versatile as Marina, so they probably didn't want to do anything more with him. But I'd say as a whole, Mischief Makers has a pretty good level design that takes advantage of your moveset in unique ways. Aside from there being a couple annoying levels like this maze, or the one with 7 kids because there are actually only 3 mini-bosses here repeated 7 times, the only problem I have with the levels is that a lot of them are really short. There are levels that last a good amount of time, but many of them feel like they end way too quickly. Now for speedrunners or people in general who like to get fast time on levels, this might be a good thing. But given the nature of how most levels have something unique about them, this results in some concepts feeling like they haven't reached their full potential. Like, more could have probably been done with some of these. But also, this game is pretty easy. I mean, you get a maximum of 3 health bars. Enemies don't do a lot of damage and are easily dealt with. And falling into a pit or a lava will just teleport you back to the land with a little bit of damage. Not every game needs to be hard, but for when you're just going through the game normally, there could have been a bit more challenge. The game does challenge you in other ways, though I'll get to that later. But I talked about the main levels, now it's time for the bosses. There are many bosses spread throughout the game, and these can range from good to what even was the point. Many bosses tend to be some kind of animal or minor villain, and most of them are very simple to beat with only 1 or 2 attacks. Very rarely do they have any more than that. Hell, some of them don't even have any attacks, like the first time you fight Mars in 64. All he does is send out other Clancers, most of which also don't attack. They almost never change up their strategy, and the few that do are still easily countered. The main problem is that for most of them you can easily just pick them up at any time, even right when they get back up. Some of them require timing, like this bee or this frog, but others you can easily get them into a lock. Like, wow. Such an interesting boss fight. Even when you fight Kalina as Terran, who can't grab, you can still get her in a lock. Okay, they're not all bad, it can be fun to just beat up a blue dog. It's just most of them aren't interesting, and only one of them might give a challenge, this pirate guy, only because it can be hard to figure out how to hurt him, but once you do find out, it's nothing. They're mostly harmless, but some of them go on a bit too long. But despite that, they're still satisfying to beat, if only because of this. Now that is an explosion. I already forgot about how the fight itself wasn't special. But the only actually interesting mini-bosses come from the first encounter with each of the B-Stack door. Their movesets are a lot more varied, and they offer more of a challenge. They aren't super hard, but they are much more fun to fight since you can't just grab at any point. You need to wait for an opening and use their own attacks against them. And in Mirko's case, you steal his lance and shield and throw them back at him. You would have been more effective if you came unarmed. You'll see the circle appear with a beeping sound when you have an opening to grab them. I wish more of the mini-bosses were like these guys. And then there's the Emperor himself, who also has a pretty cool fight. He doesn't directly attack you, instead a bunch of negative words like sad, death, anger, evil, pain, etc. will rise up, and when they get to the top, they turn into projectiles. To defeat him, you need to grab those negative words and shake them to turn them into the opposite positive word. Sad will become happy, death will become life, anger will become joy, evil will become good, and pain will become glee. You can then throw these positive words to damage the Emperor. This is such a cool and creative idea for a boss fight. It is simple, but the atmosphere is amazing. It also is even functionally better than most of the other mini-bosses since you can't get him in a lock, and even though he only has one attack, you will constantly need to avoid it. This and the first encounter with the B-Stack door are good mini-bosses, so I'm not sure what happened to the others. But those were just the mini-bosses. Now for the major bosses. And these boss fights are the highlight of the entire game. The major bosses are so good. Well, most of them are. Excluding the first area, each area has one major boss at the end. The final area has 2. The first one against Migan and Migan Jr. Migan just floats there while Jr. will spit out fire and throw punches. You can grab his fists and throw them back at him, but after 3 hits, Migan will give Jr. health back, so you first need to throw Jr.'s fists at him. After a couple hits, he will throw projectiles at you, but it only takes 3 hits to get him out of the picture. After that, Jr. starts getting more aggressive, throwing long combos of punches you can't throw back. You can only block. You just need to endure long enough for him to tire out. Then you throw his fist back to damage him. When he's close to death, he'll actually start faking you out, keeping you on your toes. But once he throws a real punch, the rest are also real. This is another really cool boss that makes good use out of the grabbing mechanic. This is only the first major boss, and it makes such a good first impression. Hey, if those mini-bosses blew up in such a blaze of glory, wonder how satisfying defeating this guy will be. What was that? He just pops and that's it? That was such an anticlimax. You're lucky the actual fight was good. So the next 3 major bosses are the second encounter with each of the B-Stack door. This time they're riding their transforming machines. Lunar has his Cerberus Alpha, Terrace has his Sasquatch Beta, and Mirko has his Phoenix Gamma. These fights are also really fun. Well, 2 of them are. They're fast-paced and intense, they're multi-phased, and have a lot of attacks. Well, 2 do. Okay, let's just get this out of the way. Lunar and Mirko's fights are great, but Terrace's is so weak. He's in a tank, which is slow, and all he does is throw rocks and sometimes shoots his cannon, which is easily countered. And then his second phase, when his Sasquatch Beta goes into beast form, which should be cool, but he only has one attack, the kick. And he doesn't even do it unless you deliberately get close enough to him. He won't walk close enough to you to trigger this attack. He just stands there.
He's just standing there, menacingly!
To beat him, you need to grab the kick and pull back, then boost up, then boost down and slam it on him. Yo, that is satisfying, but there's no challenge. This is even worse than some of the mini-bosses. I don't understand how this fight can be so bad when the other two are really damn good. In Lunar's fight, you're riding on a cat while he's on his Cerberus Alpha firing lasers and missiles at you. And you can jump on those missiles, so you're riding a cat ready to missile. And you take more missiles, shake them to make them grow, and then throw them back at him while dodging everything he's throwing at you. Yeah, that's just a little bit more exciting than this. And that's just Lunar's first phase. His second phase, his ride turns into beast form while he gets off to flip kick the shit out of you. All you need to do is wait for an opening to grab and throw him 3 times for him to get back on Cerberus for one final phase. Yeah, he has 3 phases. Terrace only has 2. In this phase, it's all about avoiding his attacks while you shoot him down with his own machine gun. This boss alone deserves an award. It's so good. It's my favorite fight in the game. But let's not discredit Mirko. His fight is also top tier. In this fight, you were constantly falling, so you could go anywhere on screen. Mirko is flying there and attacks with a spear. Like his first fight, you need to take his shield or spear and attack with those. But his attacks change when you take these away. If he doesn't have a shield, he will start throwing these energy snakes or whatever at you. Also, his Phoenix Gamma will come into the foreground. And while it doesn't do much, you do take damage by touching the drill, and it does shoot it out sometimes. Now, you could use the shield to take him down, but you can also take a spear. However, when you do, he now attacks by repeatedly doing the slam attack, which makes it hard to hit him. For the longest time, I thought it was impossible to hit him at this time, but you can, and his spear can end the phase quickly. His second phase, Phoenix turns into beast mode. He'll start doing his peck attack, and you damage him by grabbing the head, shaking down to have it slam back in Mirko's face. He also has these lasers he shoots out of his wings, and holy shit! Look at how much health I had when he hit me.
Holy look at all this damage!
It's because of how close I was, and I got hit with multiple lasers at once. They don't normally do that much damage. After a few hits, you're on the final phase, where he just unloads missiles and bullets at you. All you need to do is grab one missile and send it back to end the fight. Mirko is often considered to be the hardest fight in the game, but that's mostly for new players. As a kid, I could not beat this guy, but now that I know what I'm doing, he's not that hard to beat. But I will agree he is the hardest. His death was the only one I had played through this, so there you go. Once again, with fights as good as Lunar and Mirko here, I have no idea what happened to Terrace. These two are so good, they're fast and energetic, intense and a bit challenging. The only thing that could make them better would be a good explosion when finishing them off. But Megan Jr.'s was lame. I hope it's not a trend where only the mini-bosses get good explosions. Well, let's take a look.
How could I lose to
We're definitely my match, Marina.
That was fucking awesome! That is how you finish off a boss in a satisfying way. I see why these guys needed health pots. Well, except Mirko for some reason. Well anyways, only the final boss is left. The Beast Deck Door.
Through fire, justice is served!
A hero with shining armor in coal.
To punish evil forces, I have been charged.
It's only appropriate that the final boss of this game also be fantastic. It's right up there with Lunar and Mirko and one of my favorite final bosses. He doesn't have multiple phases, but he does slightly change his strategy partway through. He starts by trying to stomp you, but you can grab his foot and throw him in the background. But you can also shake down to slam him on the ground. After a while, he'll stop doing this attack, meaning you can't hurt him that way anymore, unless you can grab his foot when he does this jump kick. Other attacks he can do include this chest laser you need to avoid, and using his gun arm to shoot at you, but you can't counter him with those. The only other way to hurt him is when he shoots his fist at you. You can grab it and then you're put in a first-person aiming mode where you can throw it back. It can be hard to hit him at first, as he will keep moving around to avoid it. But an easy way to get him every time is to not move the reticle. He'll move left, then move back right. When he starts moving right, throw it. You'll hit him every time. This is a pretty simple final boss, but it's just really fun to fight. I do wish there could have been a bit more to it. As it stands, Lunar's second fight is still my favorite in the game. But it's always a blast fighting this thing. It kind of baffles me how a game can have such good boss fights and also have some pretty weak-ass bosses at the same time. The good bosses are so good. And the only real problem I have with those good ones is when you know what you're doing, you can beat them really fast, especially the final boss. This applies to all the bosses, but it's really noticeable with the final boss, since he only has one phase. Now, this may not be a problem to others who like being able to beat bosses fast, and I understand that. But I like bosses to last a bit, you know? Bosses, especially final bosses, tend to be the highlight of any game. Why would I want the highlight to end so quickly? I tend to fight this guy multiple times in a row because I want it to last longer. But that's my only real complaint, and it may not even be a problem to others. Hey, if the previous 3 bosses had such amazing explosions, what does this thing have?
That's better.
Are you serious? That's it? The last 3 had such glorious explosions, but the final boss just wobbles a bit?
Lame!
Now there's one thing I've neglected to talk about up until now, and it's the biggest problem with this game. Gold gems are hidden collectibles. One is found in every level, including boss fights. They are found by different means. Most of them are just hidden somewhere, but others require a different tactic to find, some being outright cryptic. Now, this isn't a problem in and of itself. It's just an optional collectible, right? Well, not entirely. You technically don't need any of them. But one thing you'll notice during the ending is the gold gem counter that is constantly going down. And when it reaches 0, the cutscene just ends. This is dumb. I really don't understand why they thought this was a good idea. To see the full ending, you need all the gold gems. Hell, to see any of the ending, you need gold gems. While most aren't that hard to get, there are a few that are such a pain in the ass. There are the ones that require you to shake a specific object or NPC, so without a guide you really just need to shake everything. And sometimes it's random if you get it. Like in this level, you get it by shaking a missile. Yeah, which one? It's random. You could get it or not. With this mole boss, you need to jump on his belly, and it might appear. But you could likely just kill him before it even appears. And then there's the Athletic Festival, which requires you to complete the 100-meter dash in 11 seconds, which is very difficult to do. You have to just mash right on the D-pad, which is already uncomfortable, but the timing for it is really tight. I have done it legitimately before, so I have no shame in saying that I used a turbo controller for this. But even then, it took a few tries to get it. When even a turbo controller isn't guaranteed to work, maybe you should consider you've gone too far. And then there's the major bosses, which in order to get the gem, you need to beat them without getting hit once. For most of them, it's not too hard, but Cerberus Alpha can kiss my ass. It is incredibly difficult to beat this guy without getting hit, and it isn't just because of all the projectiles he has. It's his second phase. So in this phase he has 3 attacks, a lunging kick, which is what makes him vulnerable, a rising slash, which isn't that hard to avoid, and a spinning slash, which is almost impossible to avoid. The problem here is all 3 of these moves have the same wind-up animation, so you can't tell which he's going to do until it's too late. To counter him, you need to hope he does the kick so you can jump over him to avoid it. Then you can grab him. But if he does the spin attack, there's little you can do to avoid it, and it's just frustrating. But then there's the one gotten during the ending. Yes, there's a gold gem hidden in the ending cutscene of all places. To get it, you need to grab Terran in the cutscene and shake it out of him. But you can only do that if the average of all levels in the game have an A rank. So there's a ranking system for each level. It's just for how fast you can beat them, nothing else. I hate being timed. I know others enjoy time trials and all, so I'm not saying it's bad, I just really don't like it. But it's a bit annoying in another way since the timer is always going down, even during cutscenes, even when the game is paused. Now, it can be a pain to get A ranks, but it isn't the worst thing in the world. And be thankful you only need an average of A, because there's also a hidden S rank you can get. Getting the S ranks is ridiculous. The time required to get them is absurdly strict. You need to be perfect. You need to speedrun them. I think some levels even require you to do skips, which is just... why? I never bothered to even try to get the S ranks. I already hate being rushed, and with it being this strict, no thank you. Luckily, there's nothing tied to the S rank. You only need to get A ranks. And while it isn't as bad, it's still annoying that it's there. But those are the only really bad gold gems. Again, it would be fine if they did something else instead of act as a timer for how much of the ending you can see. There is a bonus scene after the credits. That should have been the reward for getting all the gems, not the ability to watch the ending at all. Okay, it is fairly easy to get enough gems to see up to where the credits start, which is a good ending in its own right. The bonus scene isn't all that important. All that happens is Geold's ghost comes back and turns the B-Stack door back into humans, because apparently they used to be human, but they forgot. This also includes Terrace, who already looks human. Marina calls him a gorilla at one point, but I always took that as an insult rather than him literally being a gorilla. But now that they're all human, Geold offers to make Marina human. Not sure what real difference that would make other than making her weaker. And then Theo gives this look. I thought he said he thought of Marina as a daughter. This is also a bit awkward when you realize what Marina looks like in human form is determined by the age you set when you start a new game, meaning she could actually be a child. Anime was a mistake. In an era where 2D games were the thing of the past, Mischief Makers took a risky decision to not follow the current trend. It may not have gotten mainstream attention, but it did offer a unique game for those who played it. I've already mentioned it's one of my favorite 2D games. It's also just in general one of my favorite games. Sure, it has some issues, how the gold gems and ending work is a problem, and the game is pretty short, which, while it made good use of its unique mechanics, it felt like it didn't have enough time to take them even further. And with no sequel to follow up on them, I doubt we'll be able to see what more can be done with it. And some of the bosses are a bit lame, but those are easily overlooked because the rest of the game is so unique, charming, and just plain fun. With very creative mechanics and level design well suited to them, and some of the best boss fights I've ever played, there's a lot to love in this little game. Yeah, it kinda sucks that the game is so short, but that's not stopped me from spending literally 7 days playing this game. Yeah, the game keeps track of your time played, and on the first file my sister made when she got the game, I put over 7 days in it. I've played it that much. Look, the point is, I love this game and wanted to talk about it. And you should play it too. It's a shame this game never got any re-release, although I'd recommend playing it on an actual N64, or at least with an N64 controller if you can, because of how it uses the C buttons. I can imagine it might not feel as good using an analog stick for boosting and shaking. It is a real shame anytime you play a game that is really good, but most people don't even know about it. And it doesn't get a sequel as well. I would love a sequel, but I've long accepted that we'll never see Marina, Theo, or the B-Stack door again. It's sad, but all I can do is share it with more people. I hope I've convinced some of you to at least check the game out. And with that, the only thing left to say is...
Shake, shake!